All right. Hello, everyone. Hope you guys are having a good start to your week. Happy Monday. The birds are chirping here where I live, so can't complain. It's a beautiful day outside. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day as well. So we're gonna get the week off. Um, the week started off strong. I don't know why I said that way, but we're gonna go over basically how I'm viewing what's going on in the market from a macro perspective, as well as what's going on here in, I guess you can say, real time, or what I'm looking for in the near future. Go over different ideas, go over the ABC method for those who might be new to me or new to the channel. And throughout this the entirety of this session, if you guys want to go ahead and ask me any questions you might have via the Discord chat, I'm going to do my best to keep an eye out on chat, as well as if you guys are here in Discord, feel free to unmute yourself. And if you want to ask me something, while I'm explaining something, or if you need me to just touch on certain things, please let me know. Um, yeah, and like I said, throughout the entirety of this stream, this is a chance for you guys to learn about me, learn about the ABC strategy. So if you guys are interested, and if you have any questions throughout, like I said, throughout the entirety of the stream, please feel free to let me know. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. First things first, if you guys aren't familiar with ABCs, I'll touch on that real quick. Basically, we're identifying trends in groups of threes, right? Whether it's to the upside or to the downside. All right. And all we're doing is looking for basically price to establish a pivot, which is a initial uptrend or downtrend. Actually, let's do this, might be better. All right. And we're waiting for price to pull back for a B wave, and then the C is going to be an extension. And basically, we're looking for price to extend past the pivot of the A. Now, whether it's to the upside or the downside, there's different variations. Those are the main two. We can focus on looking for either long position or short position, depending on the ABC we're looking at. ABCs to the upside usually means we're looking for shorts, and if we're identifying ABC to the downside, we're usually looking for price to go to the upside. Actually, no, there is no other variation. So I'm sorry, I sorry I said, what was it? I'm sorry. I'm a little bit still out of the loop, guys. I apologize. But basically, it is fact, all right? It's not, there's no other variations, but as long as price is below the A, all right, if we're coming off of an ABC to the upside, or if an ABC to the downside has formed and price gets back above the pivot, that is a position for a long. And the first example is a position for a short. I'm sorry I made that a little confusing in the beginning, but if you guys need me to clarify that, I'll go ahead and you guys will be looking at examples, and I'll show you guys setups throughout the entirety of today's session. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know. I'm sorry, that was a lot of miscommunication on my end in the beginning there. But going back to what I was saying before, is we like to look at things from a macro perspective and work our way into a little bit more of a relevant time frame. What I mean by relevant, I usually use about a 30-minute to a 2-hour chart, but the most important thing is perspective, right? Just like on the 8-hour here, I am zoomed out as far as I can. You guys can do the exact same thing on an 8-hour, but zoom in like this to where you focus on every single little individual candle, trying to find ABCs within these moves. Obviously, it's a lot harder to do this on an 8-hour than it is a 15-minute, but the general idea still stands. We're looking for a very large perspective, enough to see the entirety of a larger possible set of waves. All right. That being said, we're just going to be focusing on everything that's happened pretty much to the right of this pivot here, or this line I'm just going to be drawing, just because we're just coming off of an ABC top. That was the actual end of the previous bull market. So from here on out, we're just going to be focusing on everything to the right of that line here, just to make it easier, just to clarify things for you guys. So that being said, if you start from the top of the previous bull market, or I guess the beginning of this bear market, we have a larger A to a B to a C. Now, this is a very nice, clear, concise ABC on a macro time frame. We have a nice set of subwaves, or a nice set of ABCs within each one of these waves. All right, this is something I like to see. This is something I consider more of a textbook definition of how an ABC should be forming. Whether it's on a larger time frame or a smaller time frame, to me, this is a very nice example of what a nice developed ABC is. Now, the question is, Is this the end of something or is this the beginning of something? Now, we can make claims and arguments for both. For me, you can definitely make a claim that this entire ABC is basically the end of the bear market. You know, we put in a reversal off of this setup here, basically within the ABC within the last C wave. You know, we're currently holding above that pivot substantially at this point. So to me, definitely can make a claim that we have potentially bottomed. Right. The other claim is, which I think you can also make a good argument for, which I think is equally as viable as the bullish option, is that maybe we're not just done yet. Maybe this ABC, which I pointed out in the beginning or earlier in the stream, is part of a larger A to possible B to possible larger C wave to extend past the previous low. All right. If that is the case, actually, I want to go ahead and change this color. If that is the case, then we can absolutely go ahead and look for a possibility of this being, or this section of price action where we're at right now to be a much larger possible B wave. Now, the question is, if that is the case, if that's something we are going to look at, we have to go ahead and kind of dive into this area of price action here to see what the possibilities of this playing out or how this can play out. All right. So that being said, let's zoom in, you know, quote unquote, zoom in. I always say that in air quotes because to me, this is still, for most people, based on how they trade, would consider this more still of a macro time frame. But for me, there's a little bit more of a zoomed in perspective. This is what I usually focus on when I'm trading. Like I said, 1 to 2 hour, but make sure you can zoom out all the way as far as you can and get the most out of an individual trend or an individual set of trends. All right. With that being said, we have an A, B, C. Well, an A, B, C to an A. This was just not a clear, concise separation in trend, but still a larger B wave, regardless of how messy the structure within this B wave was. And then we have an extension of the C. Now, a more macro pivot, or sorry, larger time frame pivot would be if price can get back below the previous A, which is established at 25,277. I would say that's a much larger confirmation of a larger potential move to the downside. I don't necessarily think that this is going to be the move that takes us down to 15K or lower if we are going to venture lower, but just because I think something is not going to happen, or at least not as likely to happen, doesn't mean that it can't. So if we can maintain below 25,277, I definitely think that is a cause, or actually I would call that a possible much larger macro pivot, in my opinion, to where if we zoom back out, we can consider this part of a much larger ABC, which I mentioned before. And we do have the topping out structure to solidify that idea. Doesn't mean that this is going to be the top, but that's one of the options of this being a much larger possible topping out structure. All right. The other variation is maybe this ABC, like I mentioned before, is part of maybe one larger A. We're working on a larger B, and maybe we're going to come up and put in a higher C wave. Now, I don't know exactly where this B wave would want to go, but to me, since we do have an ABC that's completed, we have the possibility of at least dropping into this prior range, or at least this prior area of price action, establishing a little bit more of a larger area of support before pushing up higher. That is definitely a much larger, or how do I say this? A higher probability setup than I would personally rank over the topping out structure, which I mentioned before, that which does cause us to come down and put in new lows. Definitely possible. This is definitely more likely, though, in my opinion. The other option is that maybe we just come down, do something like this, retest, not even get that confirmation below, and just keep going. That's if we're extremely bullish, in my opinion. I personally don't think that's. I'm on the same side that it's probably not as likely. Just like this area being the actual top is as likely. I personally think if I had to pick between all three of the options, this ABC, which I just mentioned before, is part of a larger A. We're putting in some sort of larger B wave at the moment, and we're going to continue higher to put in a C before we can start talking about a much larger reversal in the markets in general. But those are the main pivots, or at least this is the main pivot for BTC. I am also currently short, even though I did talk about this pivot. I talked about taking this one in the past. This because to me, this is a ABC within a C wave scenario. Now, this does happen when price does extend past a previous A pivot, right? To it extends much further to the points where it makes sense to go ahead and take the larger A. So what I do in these kind of situations is if I can identify an ABC within a C wave, right? To me, that would be a higher area of confidence to take a short from, playing into the possibility of this becoming a larger reversal and hopefully being able to catch the short position ahead of time. I try not to do this too much because you can get to a situation to where you can start trying to catch every high and basically trying to catch the exact top, which is not what we're trying to do here. We're doing our best to allow price to show us where it wants to top out, play into the possibility that this is part of a larger move. We can go ahead and look for a larger push to the downside, right? Without going ahead and taking this entry now. I'm not saying taking this entry is bad. I'm just saying that you be preemptively trying to play into the possibility of this being a larger reversal. That's the main reason why I'm doing it. That's why I think you guys should consider using these or taking these type of ABC trades only if you're very extended past the original point of the previous pivot of the A. In this case, is this wick here. All right. But besides that, for BTC, I really don't have anything else that's significant enough for me to go ahead and take a trade off of. I know some people mentioned some long positions down and off of like this region here. Me personally, that's too small for me to take actual decision or take an actual trade off of. Unless, if I was to play in a continuation method, maybe. But for me to find a new trade to go ahead and enter this into, I just don't think that's the best option for me personally, or at least it wasn't a large enough setup for me to go ahead and take it seriously or consider it a serious trade. But that being said, that's pretty much all I have for BTC. Let's go on to Ethereum because we have a couple coins to go over here. Sorry, I'm just taking a swig of water. All right. So that being said, on Ethereum, it's almost the same as BTC, just playing out a little bit differently. I personally think that there's a lot more to work with Ethereum than it is BTC, in my opinion. But same thing, almost the exact same thing as BTC. We have an A to a B to a C, right? This is a very nice clear ABC. The C wave is a little bit more of a straight shot down than a little bit more of an established trend than as compared to BTC. But regardless, that's still a valid ABC setup right there. Now the question is this the bottom? Have we bottomed, or is this the beginning of something? If this is the bottom, you definitely can make a claim for that. And we're most likely looking for some sort of A to a B to an extension of the C wave here. All right. That is the bullish option. The other option is that maybe we're not done here. Maybe this is part of a larger A. Now we either put in a B wave here, or we're looking for another extension of the high, or another push past the previous high to form a larger B wave. Now, this is probably, if I had to put my money on it, this is probably the most likely scenario, in my opinion, for Ethereum. I would say more than likely you probably get a stronger push past that C wave, or sorry, past this original A pivot to form its own ABC. Something like this. But very well, we can absolutely just come up, put in a slight wick above the previous level, and just go ahead and reverse off of that setup itself. That's definitely in the cards. But that is something I'm considering. If we haven't put in the B wave here, then we're going to put in one more high for another B wave. That'll be around that 2032 region. All right. And then if we haven't put in a new high, or sorry, if we don't put in a new high, and this previous pivot is part of a larger B wave, all right, I'm going to draw this as a larger potential ABC. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is that maybe if we wanted to play into the idea that we bottomed here, we could kind of draw this out to be a larger A to a B to a C scenario. All right, to where we do not put in a new low. All right, I think that's probably the most important takeaway from ETH at the moment, or at least one of the levels that matter, one of the most important levels, is that we go ahead and not break the previous low. But if we do break the previous low, we can start talking about other possibilities. More importantly, this becoming a larger A to a B to a C, or if we put in that higher high, eventually make its way back down and put in that larger C wave. But we got to take it one level at a time. Until we break this high, that 1076 region does act as a bullish pivot. If we continue to drop and let's say we don't hold that 1076, the next logical support for me would be around that 878. There's some room for support in between these regions, but to me, these are the most macro, most important pivots to keep an eye on in the longer term if ETH wants to be bullish or bearish, depending on which direction you're looking at. But with that being said, those are the macro pivots for me. Those are the most important ones that matter on a higher end time frame. We can go into quote unquote our normal perspective, how we usually trade or what we usually trade. All right, remember that's usually about a 30-minute to a 2-hour, but we're more focused on zooming out as far as we can to make sure we can see as much price action as we can. That's local, or at least the most recent trend or the larger trend. Keeping that in mind. Now, unlike BTC, we did not put in a lower low. So this ABC is part of a larger A to a B to a C. Now, I know I've already gotten this question before, and I will just state it for you guys, is that I will not be taking this short trade if it does pop up on Ethereum. The only reason why is because this pivot off of the previous high is so close to the 1745. To me, it just doesn't make sense for me to go ahead and try to catch the next top. I would rather have it come down. I take the 1743, 1744 entry, or let price ride to the upside and catch that 2032 pivot that I mentioned before. So those are the two main areas that I'm looking to short. Besides that, I am in a long position off of this ABC within the B wave. All right. So right now, I'm in a long position based off of that ABC as well as shorting from 1744. I am not currently in that short right now. I'm just waiting to get entered, but I am still holding that 1554 region. And if we can keep pushing up, fantastic. If the shorts end up prevailing and we get a large push to the downside, regardless, I'll be looking for a larger move in either direction, either to continue to the next level higher or try to catch the next swing to the downside. But besides that, those are pretty much the main pivots for Ethereum. Let's go ahead and go over LTC here. Like I said, guys, if you have any questions throughout the entirety of this session, whether you're just tuning in now on the Discord end or the YouTube Twitch end, either one of those, if you have any questions for me, please feel free to ask. I will do my best to be on top of chat, and as well as if you guys, like I said, you guys can chime in whenever you want to ask a question regarding any of the setups that I'm talking about today, or how I approach my trading strategy, or anything about trading in general. Please feel free to ask. This is what these sessions are for, so that you guys get a little bit more of a direct answer from me, and hopefully we can clarify some things in regards to trading or the ABC method. So for LTC, I'm going to be primarily just focusing on we're going to touch on the larger perspective, but it's what I want to focus on, what's been going on here as well. For LTC, if it is different, it has been playing out differently compared to BTC and ETH. We have a much larger ABC here, but same principle kind of stands. The question is, have we bottomed, or is this part of a larger structure? Now, this ABC is a lot more pronounced on a macro time frame than I would say compared to ETH and BTC. But if this is the beginning of a larger downtrend, right, we have to view this entire test of the upside as a possible B. Now the question is, if we finished, or if we're looking for another swing to the upside, that we can go ahead and talk about once we zoom in. But for me personally, at the moment, if we haven't bottomed, I'm looking at this as a larger potential A to a B, and we're going to get one more swing to the downside. If you want to look at the bullish case scenario, before I do that, let me just go ahead and mark the pivot. That pivot of 40.32 is very important to hold. If this is going to be a bullish setup, or let's say we have bottomed, which actually we can just go on and zoom in and talk about that at the same time. But if we have bottomed, looking at this, from a 3-hour perspective, this is a very zoomed out perspective, in my opinion. To me, this you see a much larger A to a B to a C. This to me actually looks like one larger A.
Yeah.
We're working on a B.
Yeah.
We're gonna put in some sort of C wave. Right. Like I said, this is the most, I would say this is a larger bearish potential setup that we can look at. But the bullish case scenario is that maybe this ABC turns up to be one larger potential pullback, and we can continue higher. That's ideally what probably the main short scenario for LTC would be for me at the moment. I really don't see anything else that really intrigues me that's significant enough for me to actually take a good trade off of. The only thing I can say is that if we do not put on a top right away, we have the potential to put in a larger ABC bullish setup here. I'm not really so inclined to this at the moment as my favorite option, but I am going to mark that out regardless. Now, keep in mind, if we get a new high without putting in this setup is taken off the table, because that completes the entirety of this larger ABC setup. And we have to focus on, whenever it decides to go ahead and put in that topping structure, and we can pull back from there, we have to look at it as a brand new set of trends. But if we do not put in a significant top past that previous A, we definitely have the possibility of coming down a little bit lower, putting in a larger potential bullish setup at 65.10 off of this ABC before revisiting those higher levels. So that's pretty much it for LTC at the moment. Those are the main pivots I'm looking for. I really don't see anything else in between. Like I said, nothing worth taking in my opinion. We'll just have to wait and see how price goes ahead and develops, and how it if we can catch any future potential setups. But besides that, that's all I really have for LTC. I want to do XRP because we are in an XRP trade. Where is it? So for XRP, I actually need more price action. So for XRP, we do have a very, very large ABC, which, you want to see on a much more macro perspective. And the question is, or the question can pop up, or you can ask the question of, is this the bottom, or is this the beginning of something? If this is the bottom, we're pretty much sitting at a much larger bullish pivot at this region. And you can see we came up to test it. We came back to test it again. We're fighting in that pivot, or in this region right now. If we can maintain above this A significantly, I would definitely be a little bit more inclined to see much more upside. The bearish option, which I mentioned before, is maybe this is part of a larger A, which is made up of that white ABC you see here. We're working on an A to a B to a C to a B, and potentially making one more low. Now, we could still get a bullish outcome out of this. The only thing I would say is that maybe we're looking at this ABC as in one larger potential A. We're working on maybe we'll get a larger B wave pullback and then continuation higher. Definitely in the realm of possibilities from a bullish perspective. The bearish perspective, I would want to see this part of a larger ABC, right? And then ultimately lead us to another swing to the downside, putting in a lower low. That's probably the most bearish option I have at the moment. But regardless, whether you want to be bullish or bearish, we do have a larger ABC here. Now, will this lead to just a pullback or ultimately a larger reversal? That I do not have the answer at the moment, or the answer for at the moment. You said to keep in mind that this is a very, very significant ABC. You know, on a 4-hour time frame, I'm zoomed out. You can see this clear as day. So to me, that's definitely a short to be in. I unfortunately did not take that short, just because I did try it. I just didn't set up the bot in time, and I just missed out on the trade. But this is something I have talked about as a potential bearish, larger bearish setup. So just keep that in mind. All right. Besides that, I'm going to take this off the table because that doesn't matter anymore. For me, I'm currently long off of this ABC here. Let me go through like at 1 hour and show you guys. Actually, 2 hour. So on the 2 hour, I'm long off of this setup. So as long as we were above 36.08, that would have been my entry, which I believe I did get 36.08 exactly. Couldn't find the price level. All right. So I'm all for that pivot. So as long as we're above there, looking for more upside. Obviously, we do now run into the issue of this being a bearish setup. So I am gonna hold. If not, I'll most likely, which I have been thinking about. If you guys tuned into my stream earlier that I streamed before this, I was looking at this as a potential exit area for me. We can go ahead and talk about continuation setups if you want as a take profit method. If you guys need me to clear that up for you, or if you guys haven't heard of that concept, I can go over it a little bit more. But basically, I'm waiting for price to put in another bullish ABC within an aggressive uptrend, and that's what I'll be looking to take profit and potentially either re-entering on this setup itself or looking for a setup on another coin or similar altcoin. But yeah, that's pretty much it. What I have for XRP. I would say, you know, if you guys are in this short from that region, definitely a good short to be in. But besides that, I really don't have anything besides the long position I'm in, and I'm looking to get out around that pivot as well. Let's do BNB because I'm also in that short. I want to showcase to you guys how I came up with that conclusion. All right, so for BNB, almost as similar as XRP. Very, very large ABC. We're currently above that pivot. If we have bottomed, to me, this looks like a larger A to a B to a C. Right, and that would be a bearish pivot for me. But until then, that is one option on the table. The other option is that perhaps maybe we have potentially bottomed, and it's still a similar outcome. You know, ultimately, I'm looking for a higher high. Now we could put in one more low here, or this could be part of a larger ABC within the C, which I'll go ahead and talk about here shortly. But let me show you guys why I'm short at the moment. I'm currently short off of this ABC. Just because for me and how I'm looking at this, if we are going to be bearish, we don't necessarily have to put in that higher high. If we can find a large enough setup in between the low and where we're at now, I definitely will take it. We do have that option available. So as long as we were below 337.70, I was remaining short, and I'm still currently holding that short. So love to see it. Hopefully, maybe we'll get an answer on a potential reversal setup or at least give us an option to get into a long position if we do this ends up becoming a larger pullback. But besides that, that's a very nice ABC when it comes to BNB. I'm still holding that short, and I will continue to hold until I get a continuation setup or if I get stopped out. Let's see. Does anyone else have any coins? So usually, I go through my main list and allow you guys to go ahead and pick from a coin, or maybe if you have something that you want me to take a look at, get my opinion on. So if you guys have any questions, whether you're here in Discord or here in the YouTube or Twitch end, please feel free to ask. Or if you guys want me to look at something, look at a certain coin, please let me know. All right. Let's see. Nothing. I'm trying to think of something I haven't done in a while. Vidarius, ADA USDT, absolutely. We could do that. I was debating between that and Matic, but let's do ADA instead. All right, ADA is in an interesting spot. So ADA on a much larger. Actually, I might have to go to a different pair. We just pull up a different chart, some more history. Okay, yeah, that's what I remember. All right, so coming off the top of the bull run, ADA has formed a much larger A to a B to a C. The pivot of that, which is almost currently, actually, I might be a little bit off on that. Yeah, we're currently dancing around that pivot at the moment. So definitely some indecision here. If ADA can significantly hold or keep holding above that macro pivot of the A, which is around 30, 38.4, I definitely would be a little bit more bullish on this coin. But you can see we're currently fighting in this region at the moment. Let's see. Yeah, that's the main macro bullish stance I have on it. Another possibility is that maybe we come up, put in this as a larger ABC potential short setup. All right. Let's see. That would be there. That'd be a potential short setup I'd be looking at for ADA. If we do not put in a higher high, another possible opportunity is that maybe we're going to come down and put in an ABC like this. I would definitely mark that out as well, just in case. But if we put in that higher high, this table will become. Oh, sorry, this setup becomes invalid. I don't know why I said table. This setup becomes invalid as. Hold on, let me explain why. Because once you get a completed ABC, all right, this is classified as one trend. So you'd have to wait for a pullback trend to form its own ABC, something like that, and then you can look for a next swing higher. Just keep in mind, if we get that, if we put in a new high, this setup that I just mentioned before becomes invalid. It becomes invalid according to the method. But definitely on the table as well. If we just drop off, we just fall from a cliff from here without putting in that higher high, but definitely possible for ADA. Let's see, that be. I don't think there's anything else besides that that's important to me that sticks out. The macro bullish pivot, which is at 38.4. We have a possibility putting in a higher high at around 40, 420. And then if we do not put in a higher high, we come back down to 296 and put in a bullish ABC setup before possibly continuing higher. Something like this. Something like that. Maybe just use a magnet. I know, Bavaria, stop yelling at me. I know. I'm just so used to not using the magnet. I know it's better. I know it's better. Um, all right. Does anybody else have any other questions for me when it comes to anything crypto related or the ABC strategy? If not, we're going to move over to traditional assets. Um, I'm not yelling. I'm suggesting. I know you are. I know. I know. I know. You suggested this to me a lot of times, and I can be quite stubborn sometimes. I'm kidding. It does look cleaner, though. I do have to start using that more often. But yeah, if anybody else does have any questions for me regarding cryptos, we're going to be moving on to traditional assets, looking at SPY, DXY, and we'll see if we can come up with conclusions that are similar to what's going on in the crypto market. All right. All right. So going on to the S&P, coming off of the bull market top, we do have a very nice ABC here. Let me go to a 4-hour. Actually, maybe even zoom in a little bit more. Yeah, that's good. So we have an A to a B to a C, which leads to an A to a B to a C. Now, as of now, as long as we're above this pivot here, around 362.59, that is technically bullish, right? And as you can see, we pumped. We're still kind of dancing above this region. It doesn't mean that this can't be part of a larger structure. The variation of what could be going on is that maybe this ABC is part of a larger A. We're either did put in a B wave, or we're going to be putting in another high for another extension of the B wave. That will turn into something like this. Very well in the cards as well. So I will mark that pivot out as something to keep an eye on. All right, so 418.75 is that region. All right, so as long as if we can get back above and then back below, this would confirm a much larger bearish possibility of this becoming a larger A to a B to a C. Now, if that is the case, all right, we can go ahead and look for the previous low around 347.65. Go ahead and look for a potential larger ABC that you see here in the orange. If that is the case, then I'd be a little bit more bullish on the stock market in general. But we don't necessarily have to put in the structure. We can just go ahead and blast straight through 418.75, make new highs, or sorry, break through that previous high and make course to form a larger, maybe potential resistance area or test larger resistances on the way up. The other option, which is more of a much larger bullish option, is that maybe this ABC is done. All right. And then we can just start working on A to a B, like I said before, and eventually making our way up to break new highs. That would be the more short term, medium term bullish, potentially much larger macro bearish idea. That might take a little while to play out, but just keep in mind that we can definitely put in a scenario to where we can come up, break new highs, ultimately reverse. And, that would not be good. In my opinion, that would not be good. But yeah, besides that, we have another possibility of the B wave continuing to form here. Let me go to like a 1 hour to show you guys a little bit better. Like I said, just because of where we're at, I think this is not a likely option. The probabilities of testing that 418.75 are definitely gonna be a lot greater. But that doesn't necessarily mean we have to go ahead and do that right away. So if we can get one more low past 380 without going significantly lower, I definitely would think that is a much larger bullish option. Ooh, I do not like that color. There you go. Much larger bullish another potential bullish option. See, that is the SPY, DXY. Okay. All right, so the DXY, I'm ultimately looking for a couple different variations here. One of the main variations, now that this is it's been some time since this has developed. To me, the most important, or at least the main option for me, is this becoming an A to a B to a C. If that is the case, we need the DXY to go a little bit lower, putting that lower low past the previous pivot around $100.83. If we can do that and reclaim above, once you get back below, that's going to be pretty good in my opinion for the DXY. Besides that, that's the main idea that I have at the moment. We do have a possibility of forming some sort of larger A to a B to a C scenario. This is, I would say, likely, but not as likely as the first option, in my opinion, just because of where we're at in price action. But just because I say something doesn't mean it necessarily has to go ahead and play out or not play out the way that I think it's going to. But I'm definitely going to mark that as a potential option, just in case that we do come up, put in a new high, we can still reverse and ultimately put in a new low and get something like this. So if we don't put in a low now, we could get something like this to where we come back down, put in one more lower low, and ultimately test that as a larger A to a B to a C. Hold on, guys. I have to sneeze. I'm just going to mute myself for a second.
Johnny, I think you have some microphone problems again. The same thing that the last time. You're back. You're back.
We're back? Okay. Sorry. No, I went to mute. I went to just mute myself for a second because I had to sneeze. And then I just realized I realized I couldn't just mute myself on Discord without messing up the stream. So I just so I had to just do something with the wire. Okay. But we're good now, right? We're here. Yep, we're here. We're good. Okay, cool. All right. So keeping that in mind, A to B to a C. If we do not come down and put in a new low right away, we can put in one more high before ultimately coming back down lower again. But that's pretty much it for the DXY. Let's do gold and silver. I know the gold is at a very interesting pivot. So gold has a much larger completed ABC for a potential short setup. Now, if we fail to hold this, ultimately I'm looking to put in new highs past the peak back in 2000 and what was this? Oh, this is back in 2020. So if we can go ahead and put in new highs, that would complete a much larger bear setup. Then I'd be not worried, but that'd definitely be a option to consider this becoming a larger A to a B to a C. All right. The other option that's currently on the table is that maybe we put in this setup. This becomes a larger. Do we just do this? All right, maybe we can get something like that to where we do put in a larger pullback, but ultimately just continue to trend higher. Definitely a possibility. Another possibility is that maybe if we do not put in a new high, this is an option for me as well. Not high on my priority list, but definitely a possibility. Is that maybe we're not done? Maybe this is part of a larger A to a B to a C. And then we ultimately come back down. Make sure I got that right. Yep. So we ultimately come down and put in a lower low past 1619. That's a little bit more long-term bearish, but definitely a possibility as well. But we'll have to see how gold behaves in this region. We just got to take it one level at a time. But those are the main pivots for me that are important for gold to hold at the moment. Let's do silver. All right. Okay, silver's almost there. All right, so for silver, I've been talking about this for a while. Ultimately, I need to see this previous high be broken. That's going to put in a potential bearish setup. All right, that would be around 24.65, or sorry, 66 and a half. So if we can get back above and then maintain below, that's going to put in a larger potential ABC off of this wave here. And to me, this would look very, very enticing. as a potential A to a B to a C. Get rid of this. All right, that's the, I guess, more bearish option. Short-term bullish, long-term bearish. The other opportunity or the other possibility is that maybe we're done, but we bottom back here. We're in the process of, we already formed an A to a B, and this season is going to extend, most likely test the previous high. That's another possibility as well. But we'll have to wait and see how price behaves once you get that higher high. Definitely something to keep an eye out, though. Keep an eye out on, in my opinion. I'm trying to think if there's any other option. A, B, C, A, B, C, A, B, C. Nope. Those are pretty much okay. There's one more actually, but I don't think this is as likely. This is if we don't necessarily go ahead and put in a higher high right away. We have something like this that could be forming. I'm not the biggest fan of this just because we're so close to the previous high already that I'm most likely think we're just going to go ahead and cross over that. But if in case we don't right away, that's another thing to keep an eye on, another possibility. But if we go ahead and put in that new high, past the previous one around 24.63, we can take this one off the table because we have to start looking at the next set of trends as a new set of waves. But besides that, that's pretty much it for silver. Does anybody else have? I know I'm gonna go over BMW for Vlad. But besides that, if anyone else has anything else from a traditional market side that we want me to look at, please let me know. I'll keep an eye on chat. I'll keep an eye out on the YouTube and Twitch end as well. So in case you guys want to ask me something while I'm still doing this, please let me know.
There is a huge interest with Google and Microsoft. Maybe you can take and compare both of those at the same time and see which has done better within the last 2 months with this whole crazy wave of AI, let's say.
What was you said Google was the other one?
Google and Microsoft.
First of all, I got to change these candle colors. I do not like these. All right, so right off the bat, I can do this quick while I'm doing that. Actually pretty similar. Seems like Google has a little bit more exaggerated swings. But that's to be expected, especially when news comes out. So I'm sure news could affect these price movements. But to be honest, off of a larger perspective, the ABC. This is a larger ABC as well. The ABC would actually be here instead. So slightly different. You could see the pivots of the A line up a little bit differently. But setup wise, it's pretty dang similar. The only thing I would say, it looks like Microsoft is a little bit more developed and structured compared to Google. But besides that, Google's kind of almost sitting at a bullish pivot. Microsoft already went above that. We have a potential bearish setup for. Looks like for Google, we're not there yet, but for Microsoft, we have to come back down, put in a lower, get back down before that previous high. Get back below the previous high, sorry, around 276.87. For Google, it's not there yet, but we have a potential bearish setup for this ABC here, 108.89. Definitely interesting though. It's pretty close to structure, or in when it comes to how the structures play out. Seems like Google gets a little bit of drastic wicks, but Microsoft, it's a little bit ahead of the development. It looks like interesting. Um, Let me go ahead and just. Okay. Let's make sure I got all the questions in. Looks like we are good. Let me just grab. Um, what was I doing before? Besides the comparison between those two, I'll give you guys the levels for that. That's very important. Google's getting very close to an ABC, that 109 region. But besides that, those two are pretty similar in compared to how the structure forms. Let's go ahead. I didn't forget about you and BMW, Vlad. See if we can sell your cars, or is it time to buy
Let's
your
go.
cars? No, I'm just kidding. So you can see we had a bearish ABC pivot around that $100.42 region. We're still fighting in that area at the moment. We did get a rejection below, but if we can maintain above, the next step I would say we need to go ahead and test is 123.45 based off of this previous high, going back all the way to 2015. Yeah. So if we can go back up, if we can maintain above this resistance, I definitely think we can go ahead and test higher. At the moment, you can see we're currently fighting in this region. So definitely a bearish pivot. That's important in my opinion. Definitely something to keep an eye on.
Thank you very much, Johnny.
No problem. If anybody else has any questions for me, let's go ahead and give you guys a moment to ask. But Arius says, watch out with AI. It was recently banned in Italy. Others might follow. Developments might slow down to bans. That's definitely possible, but Arius, I know it's I've been hearing stuff around the news about like development and how AI has been aggressively growing a lot faster. So definitely it'll be interesting to see what happens from there. Or see how we can go ahead and work around that. But if anybody else doesn't have any questions, I think we're gonna go ahead and call it an evening.
Well explained, Johnny. Thank you very much for the presentation. Guys, also Johnny has his own channel, his own YouTube channel. Can you please present to us?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you guys are interested in learning more from me, so I stream 3 times a week on my channel. So if you guys want to, I actually stream before today. We're hopping on here just because I had to cut Sunday streams short. But I usually stream Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. I'll go ahead and post a link in the descriptions. Oh, sorry, in the description of this video as well in the comments if you're watching via YouTube or Twitch. So if you guys want to go ahead and check out the channel, like I said, I live stream 3 times a week. Definitely go ahead and check those out where you can ask me a little bit more questions, or something comes up in a scenario. I can give you guys updates of what I'm looking for the trade setups I'm looking at, etc. So, yeah, I appreciate you, Vlad, for helping me out today in today's session, as well as thank you to David and William for allowing me to present on this platform. Really does mean a lot to me. So thank you guys. Thank you again for helping me throughout the journey, and also thank you to the viewers as well. I really do appreciate you guys stopping in today. Yeah, if you guys have any questions for me, if it's not now, in the near future, when it comes to the next time I'm here, and I'll be here next week around the same time, same day. But yeah, if not, I'll be on the streams. You definitely catch me there as well. So thanks again. Hope to catch you guys on the next one. If not, maybe future stream. But yeah, you guys have a good rest of your day, guys.
Have a good beginning of the week. See you guys. Bye bye.
Bye bye.